it's all connected. Or how Scripture often serves as commentary on itself. Welcome to another installment in the Over My Shoulder Bible Study series. These brief video Bible studies typically serve to supplement the sermon that I preach each Sunday here with Missouri Street Church of Christ in Baytown, Texas. Of late, I've been preaching a series of sermons in a series entitled Jesus on the Level. It's based on Jesus' sermon on the plain. The Sermon on the Plain you can read for yourself in Luke chapter 6, verse 20 through 49. As Jesus draws that sermon to a close, he seems to put great emphasis on one particular point. Just before he closes the story with that very well-known illustration of the wise man building his house on a rock and a foolish man who built it on something less, and, well, one found blessing and the other found grand destruction, Jesus says, I will show you what someone is like who comes to me, hears my words, and acts on them. Now, he shows them by telling them the story of the wise and foolish builders. But Luke, the author of Luke's gospel, the one who records Jesus' stories here, also will use these words as a way of saying, pay close attention to what immediately follows the sermon, and you'll see these three things emphasized yet once more. You need to approach Jesus, pay attention to what he says, put it into action. In the first account, immediately following the sermon, Jesus comes to a city known as Capernaum. And in that city, there is a centurion. He's a Gentile. And he has a servant who is very ill. In fact, he's about to die. The centurion learns that Jesus is in the area, and so he sends some Jewish elders to Jesus, asking him to come and heal his slave. And so Jesus approaches the centurion's home. But the centurion sends some friends out and says, Lord, you don't need to trouble yourself. I'm not even worthy to have you come under my roof. And so Jesus is amazed. Jesus is amazed at this man's faith. And he says, I tell you that not even in Israel have I found such faith. And no surprise now, the servant is now not about to die. Now he's in good health. Jesus has healed him from a distance, as it were. Notice what's going on here. Jesus says the first thing that you need to do in order to do right by me and by yourself, do right by yourself, is to approach me, to come to me. And that's exactly what this centurion did. He approached Jesus, and he approached him in the most wonderful way possible. He recognized his own unworthiness to be in Jesus' presence. With absolute humility, he approaches Jesus, you might say. Good things happen as a result. Notice the second account. After Jesus leaves Capernaum, he comes to a town called Nain. And his disciples and a large crowd are there with him. And as he gets close to the city gates, he sees a young man who has died being carried out. And his mom is there. And, well, this man was her only son, and now she's a widow. And who's going to take care of her? It's a very sad situation. Jesus is deeply moved with compassion for her, and he speaks to her three words: do not weep. Wow. And he touches the matter that the body is on, and the bearers come to a standstill. And then Jesus speaks to the dead man. Now, dead man can't hear, right? But he says, young man, I say to you, rise. And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Needless to say, everybody in the whole countryside begins to hear about this. What a tale. What's going on here? Jesus has said, you need to come to me and you need to hear my words. And the account of the centurion, the healing of his servant, illustrates the first thought of approaching Jesus well, of recognizing your own unworthiness, to approach Jesus with absolute humility. Here in this account, we understand that Jesus can speak to us even into the deadness of our spirit. When we can't seem to hear him at all, when there is no hope for us, there is, if we dare to approach him with absolute humility. He can speak through the darkest of times, even penetrate our spiritual death, and give us life. Third account. This is immediately following the Sermon on the Plain. There are some disciples of John who witnessed some of these things, and they go back to John, that's John the Baptist, and report to him what's going on. And John has something of a crisis of faith. He sent them back to Jesus to ask this question, are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another? Now, Jesus had just then cured many people of diseases and plagues and evil spirits and given sight to many who were blind. And so he answers them, you know what's just happened. Blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me. This is Jesus' way of dealing with John's crisis of faith. It's wonderful. But notice what follows immediately after this. When John's messengers had gone, the camera swivels around. That is, Jesus begins to speak to the crowds about John. You think John was great, that he was a prophet? Oh yeah, he was a prophet, but he's way more than that. He was a special messenger sent from God to blaze the trail before me. And basically, two people have responded with their actions in one of two ways. There was a great many who came out, like the tax collectors and all the other people, and were baptized by John. They put into action what they believed in his message. And there were some who acted exactly the opposite. They did not act on his message. They refused to be baptized by him. What's going on here? You remember what Jesus had said earlier about how we do right by him? We come to him, we hear him, and we act on what he says. When we approach Jesus, recognizing our own unworthiness, and to approach him with absolute humility, then we are enabled to hear his words. He is able to penetrate even the deepest darkness in us. And when we act on what Jesus has to say, then we set ourselves in a position where we can receive the blessing of Jesus and not reject God's purpose for us. Go and think on these things. How do you approach Jesus? Do you give him your full attention? Are you ready to put into action everything that he says to you? Grace and peace be with us all.